everyone. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, I am Nurse Lainey, and this is Talk Nurse with Me, the segment on my channel where I discuss various related nursing topics. Just some things that I don't think we particularly talk about in the nursing community, some things I didn't know like as a new graduate nurse, or I might have found out later along my nursing journey that I like to share with you guys, and then just some other various topics where I just like to talk with guests about just to, just get another perspective about things. So today we're actually going to be talking about a court case. After doing the Redonda Vault with Nama, I was like, this is like super interesting. And then it basically gives us like more insight to like the legal system and how nurses can be prosecuted and things of that nature. So I found that to be very interesting, and some of the mistakes that some nurses made to get them to that point, so we can prevent from doing that. So we're going to talk about a court case today, but first we're going to start off with our wine highlight for this episode. So today we're going to be drinking on Cupcake Lighthearted, and this one is rosé. So I did have it chilled because I think I read somewhere that they recommended it to be chilled, so we're going to be trying that out this episode. It was $8.99. The flavor profile is described as grapefruit, honeysuckle, and watermelon. As far as the nutritional facts go, you guys know that I've been trying to be a little bit healthier in some of the decisions I make. So I've been trying healthy alternatives for wines. So this one is along those lines. It's 80 calories, 3.7 grams of carbs, and 0.6 grams of natural sugar. No protein, no fat, and then alcohol content is 8%, and that's in the 5 ounces. So this time I actually did measure out 5 ounces because I wanted to see like, what is it giving? Like, and how does it feel? Because I'm like, is that like not a lot of alcohol? I mean, like, is it going to get the job done or what? And y'all know I've said before that these wine glasses that I have are like pretty like big, so I was like, what does that look like in here? But actually it looks like a fair amount. Oh, and then just for you guys who don't know, because I didn't know, I don't remember measurements, 5 ounces is basically a little bit more than half a cup. Half a cup is actually 4, so I actually have 4 ounces in here because I just did half a cup. I ain't trying to do nothing else, okay? So that's what we're going to be sipping on. I'm actually going to go ahead and take a sip so I can see how I like it. It's fair. I do like rosé, but it's not like one of my favorites. I think I would put it maybe like in my top 5 wines. So I'll drink it, but it's not like I'm like a huge fan of rosé. I said that all to say like it's decent. I've had some like very sweet rosés, and I've had some that's not so much. And this one is kind of like more so in the middle. I don't know if that gives y'all like any idea of what it tastes like. It's not bad, is all I got to say. So that's what it is. Without further ado, we're going to get into the next segment of this show, which is what would Lainey do? So sometimes with these questions, like people have asked me personally, and some of them I've seen like in nurse groups, and I just want to give my opinion on it. So this one I did get from one of the nurse groups that I follow online. And basically it was a manager asking other managers in the group, when your staff nurse comes to you and refuses an assignment, how do you handle it? And then she also put like, I know you have to do what's best for your staff and patients. So I'm not a nurse manager, and I never have been, and I don't have any plans to be a nurse manager at this moment. But I did want to give my opinion on it because I think sometimes when people get into other levels of positioning in the hospital, they kind of forget, I was going to say where they came from, but basically it's just like, after you've been in a position for so long, you can't like relate anymore to what it's like to be a staff nurse or charge nurse and different things like that. So I did want to give my opinion, like as a staff nurse, like what do I think I would do if I was in the manager position? So basically we're just discussing that a staff nurse is approaching you and she doesn't want the assignment, him or her doesn't want the assignment, and like how do you address that type of situation? So first, I kind of like to see where someone is coming from before I just give an answer. So I probably would like ask them like, what concerns are they having regarding the assignment and things of that nature, and I'll let them express it to me. And I feel like after being like in a staff nurse position, sometimes you don't know what kind of patients you have on your floor. And then like sometimes it seems like your assignment is unfair, but at the same time it's like everybody's assignment sucks. So it's just like one of those types of days. But sometimes it's like the charge nurses really didn't like divvy up the assignment very well. So I think as a manager, I would try to figure out first what is the staff nurse concerns about the assignment. And then I would kind of like try to inquire on what kind of patients we have on the unit at that time and what does everybody else assignment looks like. And then based off of that and based off the years of experience and, you know, what kind of nurse is this? Because then you have, is like a full-time staff nurse, like, is it a float nurse? Like, is it travel nurse? They all have different like levels of experiences. And then like, how long have they been a nurse for as well? That also plays a part. So I think I would take all those factors into mind, and then I would kind of decide like, what I would or would not do. Sometimes it just sucks, but I think that just sometimes seeing the manager actually like take the time out of their day to address these types of situations instead of just being like, well, that's what the charge nurse gave you or whatever. I feel like it can kind of put the staff nurse at ease because it's like, okay, they did their best that they could, but really like everybody's assignment just sucks today, and that's just what it is. So if that is what the answer is going to be, it's easier to swallow. Like it's an easier pill to swallow because it's like, okay, they actually took the time out. They looked at the assignments and they've determined like this is what it is. And that's all it's going to be. So it's easier to accept that as a staff nurse, knowing that your manager took time out to like actually, you know, put some effort into doing it for you. Whereas if you just gave an answer, like I said before, it's kind of just like you ain't even try to see what I was talking about. And it's kind of like, okay, annoying. So that's kind of how I would address it. If there's any managers out there in the YouTube verse, y'all let me know, like, how do y'all handle those situations and what do y'all think about what I said? And even if you're not a manager, just comment down below and let me know, like, do y'all agree? Do y'all disagree? I've said before on my channel, I like stuff to be very interactive and I don't take things very personal. So I already had tough skin prior to being a nurse, but especially being a nurse, it's just like some stuff is not, everything is not a personal attack. You know what I'm saying? So here on my channel, we're here to help people learn and grow and build a community that, I don't want to say respects learning and growing, but like allows for mistakes to happen and opportunities to grow from those mistakes. So y'all let me know what y'all think about what I said, and y'all give me y'all opinion on what y'all will do, and we'll chat down below more about that. And we're going to get into the case that we're going to be discussing on this episode. So this case in particular has not like actually been concluded. It's a fairly new case. And if y'all are familiar with Redonda Vaught stuff, it took like a while for her stuff to actually play out. So I'm guessing we'll have to follow this case and see how it unfolds. And every now and then I'll try to like touch base with y'all. But I do want to get into more doing like cases like these. So I think like probably the next time I do a case, I'll bring this one back up and like give y'all an update briefly on where this case in particular is going, because right now, like I mentioned, it's not been concluded. Like she's not on trial or anything like that. She was just arrested. So I'm basically just presenting the case in this video, and we're gonna go over like some definitions and some opinions on things and like kind of speculate, if you will, on what could happen or what should happen. So that's what we're going to be doing on this video. And then in the next case video that I do, I'll touch base on this one again and give y'all an up-to-date idea of what's going on, and then present the next case in that video. So I'm thinking that's how it's going to go, but we'll see, because everything always depends on how I feel about life at the time. So right now, this case is involving nurse Pamela. She's a 60-year-old female. why she got arrested is not what triggered everything. So we're going to get into that in a couple of minutes. So a patient death was being investigated by Plano Police Department at Peaceful Touch Hospice and Palliative Care, which led to the discovery of a falsified DNR form. So Pamela was arrested for for tampering with physical evidence. And she was booked on March 11th, and then she was released on bond. So she's not been charged with anything as of yet. So this is all like allegedly. This is what happens. They're still investigating the situation. And I think I said it pretty plainly, but just to put it in more so my own words, there was already an investigation going on at this hospice care facility on another patient death. So this wasn't her patient in particular. It was like an investigation already going on another patient. And then that's when they found a falsified DNR form and they arrested her for it. So just a little bit of background about Pamela from the articles that I've read. There's not really much to go on yet because she's not been charged with anything. And most of my information is from like news networks, like, you know how they put the news online, like abc.com and crap like that. So they're like, it's like that's where I got my information from. There's not like fleshed out evidence or anything like that going on right now because it's still new. So like I said, I'll be updating you guys along with it and making it more accurate as it goes along. This is just what the information that we have right now. So Pamela is a nurse, but she's also, from what I've read, like an owner of several hospice and palliative care centers. So they're doing a larger investigation at this moment from what I gathered from what I read. So this is just what's going on now, and what we're primarily going to be discussing in this video is like DNR forms, advanced care directives in hospice and palliative care, what that is, what that looked like, and why this would be a big deal if she actually did tampered with the physical evidence and falsified a DNR form. So just so we're all on the same page, I do want to get into some definitions on what a DNR is. So a DNR stands for a do not resuscitate order, or really it stands for do not resuscitate. So that's where the DNR comes from. So it's a medical order that's written by a doctor. It instructs healthcare providers not to do cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which is CPR, if a patient breathing stops or if the patient's heart stops beating. So just so everybody's on the same page, CPR is like the chest compressions and things of that nature. Now there's lots of different types of end-of-life care forms. I want to first talk about the DNR. So in a hospital setting, a patient could possibly have an out-of-hospital DNR, but it's not in effect until the DNR is done again by a medical doctor in the hospital setting. So they can have an out-of-hospital one from like their primary care physician, but until they have it on file and they write an inpatient DNR for that patient, they're still considered a full code if anything should happen. So these forms are like very important because it determines what life-saving measures the nurses will perform if something should happen to that patient, if they should stop breathing or heart stops beating. Now, going more into depth, a DNR is just the CPR primarily. Now, other people do have forms that dictate whether or not they would like medications to be given, whether or not they want to be intubated, whether or not it's like you could really pick and choose exactly what you want done if something should happen to you. And most of the time that's put in a living will. So that's an advanced care directive. There's several forms, as I mentioned before, that you can prepare for end of life. And end of life could be if you're old or if you're young. So you can do it at any time. Like I can go get a DNR order now if I should so choose. Just most young people don't. So same thing with living wills. Some people may have them and they're younger, and some people may have them when they're older, and that's just to have something in place so that your family members are in your next of kin, whoever it is, does not have to make those sort of medical decisions on your behalf. And like, you know, they might want something else and you might want an entirely different thing. But since you did not like write it down, or you did not express that to them, and you're not able to talk in this situation, so you're not able to say it for yourself, this is what I would want, they're basically deciding the medical decisions for you. So that's why some people get a living will. Also, it takes the stress off of family members from having to try to make a decision. Like, it could be very stressful in those times, because the person who is the next of kin, say for instance my husband, he might know what I want, but then he might get flack from like my mom or my dad or something like that, and now like the family's fighting, like, this is what she would want and this is what she would want, and it's like, no, I know her best, blah 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 blah. And the living will kind of cuts all that out, because it's like written on the paper, and that's what they're going to have to do regardless of what anybody else think, because it's like a legally binding document. So that's pretty much a living will. Also, there is power of attorney. So that kind of goes into what I've mentioned before, how someone is making decisions on your behalf. You can appoint someone who's going to make decisions for you if you are not able to communicate that yourself. Most of the time, it is like a spouse or like a mom or a dad or something like that. So normally they do the next of kin automatically, but you can also write down, like in a legally binding document, it's going to be this person. So sometimes people will have a friend do it and not the husband. And it can kind of get tricky sometimes, because it's like, why would you do that? Sometimes people do that because they know that their loved one is going to get too emotional. Somebody else might be able to have more objectivity in regards to like making decisions on you, and just basically do what you would want done for yourself, or they would do what they think is best for you at that time, and they can make more of a logical decision. Whereas someone who's really close to you, like a husband, say for instance, they might be too, I don't want to say too much in grief, however you say that properly, they might be grieving too much, I guess is what you could say, and they're not able to like rationally think or come to those conclusions on their own. So those are some reasons why people would have those type of documents, and that's what they are. Now we're going to get into like what's hospice, what's palliative care, because a lot of people kind of get those confused. So I'm going to define those coming up in a bit. So hospice care, and I did get this following information off the Mayo Clinic. For those who are wondering, I got it pretty much verbatim, and then I'll elaborate like on what I got to say. So hospice care is for people who are nearing the end of life, typically 6 months or less to live, but hospice care can be provided for as long as the person's doctor and hospice care team certified that the condition remains life-limiting. Hold on, I have to work. Okay. The services are provided by a team of healthcare professionals who maximize comfort for a person who is terminally ill by reducing pain and addressing physical, psychological, social, and spiritual needs. To help families, hospice care also provides counseling, respite care, and practical support. So that's hospice. An easy way to think about it is basically whatever condition you have is what it's terminally ill, like you're terminally ill and you have expected 6 months or less to live. Now, what it's saying is that it's not like you got 6 months to be in a hospice care facility or your hospice nurse is coming, and then if you're not dead in 6 months, like, oh, that's the end of hospice care. No, it goes on for as long as they feel like it's appropriate for you to have. So that's hospice in a nutshell. Now we're going to get into palliative care. Palliative care is specialized medical care that focuses on providing patients relief from pain and other symptoms of a serious illness, no matter the diagnosis or stage of disease. Palliative care teams aim to improve the quality of life for both patients and their families. This form of care is offered alongside curative or other treatments you may be receiving. So palliative care I kind of think of as like more of a broad thing. Like if you have some type, like say for instance you have cancer, but it's not like you're expected to die in 6 months or less, but you still need assistance with like pain reduction and helping to have like your symptoms be relieved and things like that, but you don't necessarily need to come into the hospital to have those sorts of things done. Like that's kind of how I think of palliative care, whereas hospice care is like you're terminally ill. So that's just those in a nutshell. If y'all have any additional commentary in regards to what hospice is and what palliative care is, I know a lot of people who are not familiar with the terms kind of get them confused at times, but I definitely want to bring up the definitions, because we are talking about a nurse who's being investigated at a hospice and palliative care facility. So I had to break it down like that so we could all be on the same page. So for what I'm going to say going forward. So for those who are kind of like, okay, what's going on? The problem is if a nurse falsified DNR forms and a patient died, then life-saving measures could have been given to somebody who didn't. Or did I say that right? Life-saving measures could have been performed when they weren't, because the DNR was falsified. I hope that makes sense. And I also wanted to bring into light, not every hospice patient is DNR. So that's why it's an issue, because if this just one falsified DNR form was to say that there's not more, which is why they're doing more of an investigation. And then they really have to see like how is it falsified? And like, we need details, which is why I'm going to have to come back to y'all regarding this case. But I did want to bring it up. But it's just like, who falsified it? How did they falsify it? What's going on? Like I mentioned, every hospice patient is not DNR, and all patients are assumed to be full code unless there's a DNR form in their chart. So if there was not one in their chart and they're full code, then life-saving measures should be performed. Whereas if there's not one in the chart, then we're not going to do life-saving measures. So it kind of like gets into the question for me, like, is it considered murder if you falsified a legal document? So that's like the tampering with physical evidence that they're talking about. But I'm just thinking too, like, are you going to be accused of murder at that point because a patient died when they could have possibly been saved if CPR was performed? Does that make sense to y'all? Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments. I think it is considered to be murder. Now, what level of murder would be the next question. I don't think this will be like how it was for Redonda, where it's like criminal negligence, because it's just like, from that video, we were saying like criminal negligence is like when you didn't intend to kill somebody, which I guess it's kind of like, just think about it. It's like, if you falsified a DNR order, you intended to kill them? You know what I'm saying? So I did pull it up real quick. Criminal negligence or negligent homicide is the failure to use reasonable care to avoid consequences that threaten or harm the safety of the public and that are the foreseeable outcome of acting in a particular manner. So basically, criminal negligence is like you did something on your part that you were supposed to do that resulted in a patient death. So falsifying a legal document that ends up killing somebody, I don't think will fall under that. So I'm kind of curious, like, would that be like manslaughter, or like, what would it be? So y'all let me know down below what y'all think about this case. Do y'all think like it would be considered murder if you did falsify a DNR form and somebody died? I think so. Y'all let me know. And if that's the case, like, what should the charges be? Because y'all know how like some nurses are like, oh, I don't think nurses should be charged. Like when criminal investigations and stuff like that, I think they should just be fired and their license revoked. But it's just like, what were you trying to do when you falsified a DNR form? If that's what she did, you know, I'm just saying, in this instance, I'm just assuming that she did to spark the conversation. So we don't know if she did or she didn't, but if she did, like, what's the point of that? Why did you do that? So that's why I'm kind of like, there is no positive reason as to why you would do that. So I'm just kind of that, and that took effort on your part to actually falsify a document. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I think it would be murder. Now, what kind? I don't know. I'll let y'all know in the next video regarding this case. But I definitely think it would be murder, because it's just like you had no business doing that. And for what? What's the reason? Yeah, but y'all let me know what y'all think about all these nurses being charged with crimes. Do y'all agree with criminal investigations, or do y'all think like the nursing community should handle it? I think somebody needs to keep people in check from just doing whatever they want. So I'm kind of not completely against people being criminally charged. The problem that a lot of nurses are having is like, where is the line drawn? Like, when is it like, okay, let the nursing community handle this, or the board of nursing handle this, versus let's charge somebody with a crime? I think that if it's involving somebody's death, then you could be potentially charged with a crime. But I think if it's not involving somebody's death, then maybe not. But this is all like hot topics right now, very controversial topics. And this is just what I think right now. I think it also is like a case by case like basis. Like you're going to have to try to figure out like, okay, but then again, it's like, who's going to decide that? That's where it kind of, this is like, it's interesting. This is why it's interesting to me, because I'm like, who decides this? Who's making these rules? What stops this person from being like that person? So I encourage y'all, like, y'all know, do y'all job, document everything, protect your license, because who knows what's going to happen. And honestly, you should be trying to do these things actively anyway. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this video down below. Go ahead and like this video if you like this content. Subscribe to my channel if you have watched 2 or more of my videos, because you keep coming back for a reason. And I'm going to see you guys in the next episode. Bye.